got questions to ask, and a fire that won't die, unraveling each task under the sky. Oh, digger 420, curious Canuck, answers on your mind, never getting stuck.
Because, you know.
Hello. How is everyone today? My goodness, 11 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. It does not feel like it. Feels like 8 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, honestly. I'm not ready to be doing this yet. Some days I just wish I could stay in bed. It's been kind of rainy and gross, as spring usually is. But that means that my pain levels is a bit worse than normal, so everything hurts. Everything is doom and gloom outside. It's gray and grody. So I'm really glad that we're here and that we're doing this, because I'd probably just sit and wallow and look out the window with the cats. Sweets is right here. She's not a fan of mine because I just shut the cat window. Cat TV is one of her favorite things in the world, especially with this new tower, because it gets them up above the railing of my little deck, and they can see all sorts of stuff. But when I'm reading or streaming, I have to keep it shut. Otherwise, I'm just white out. Like I'm pale. I'm pale anyways. But if I open the window, you're not going to be able to see me. It's just going to be a glowing, thing. So I had to close it on her, and now she's trying to figure out what to do to keep herself entertained. So probably a little bit of bugging me will happen at some point, because, that's how it is. But anyways, hello. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Hello, Bulls Deep. How you doing? And no fucks given. Good to see ya. Was my Brian, my friend. My Brian, my friend. I was going to say my digger, my friend. Anyways, I did just do a little medicinal dab, just so as you know. I did the lemon stuff, though, so I shouldn't be stupid, just a little bit slow. Today we are starting our third book. This one is going to be a lot of fun. Not that the other two weren't. We learned a lot, lots of good info. But this time, not only are we reading a book with good info in it, we're reading a book written by someone I'd like to call a friend of mine. We don't know each other uber well, but I feel like I know him a lot better because I watch him stream all the time, right? It's kind of how it works with us. We get to know the streamer a lot better than the streamer gets to know us. But he's a real wonderful, wonderful guy, Stephen Gosney. He's a lawyer. He's spent a lot of time doing death penalty appeals and lots of good stuff. He's written multiple books now, but I remember the time before he was an author, and he was just one of us in chat, and then he started streaming himself. He got on with Vices and everyone else, and he's just blossomed. This wonderful gentleman, this wonderful soul that I had no idea existed, and yet here he is. And we got to know him a little bit, and then he started talking about writing a book, and I'm pretty sure it was Bronca. Don't know if it was Ty or no Ty Bronca, but one of the two of them talked him into writing a book. And the first one he ever wrote was called Prepare. I was very excited, and I was able to buy one of the first copies. Let me pull it out here. This is my copy. Prepare for the Handbook for Individual Freedom. Now, I was lucky. I got a signed copy. So that was uber cool. He's written many books since. He's written a few children's books, a naughty book that ended up being naughtier than anyone would have expected in just the weirdest, wokest way. Um, he's also edited and put out new editions of this book. So I won't actually be reading from the copy, the hardcover copy that I've got. Or it's not a hardcover, but you know what I mean. I'm not reading out of the book I own. I'm going to be reading. He was kind enough to email me the latest edition of the book. So we'll just be reading straight from the screen, which means the size of the lettering is whatever I want it to be so I can read. It's kind of nice. Hello, Bishop. I'm in your office. Johnny is on your tablet. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. But yeah, so I'll be reading the latest edition. It's got all the most up-to-date information, including the oh shoot, the garden. I'm having a brain fart, and of course I've closed the email. I've just got the PDF open. But his the gardening system that he designs, which is basically hands off, makes it really easy to be done, and it works in any size space. So someone like me who basically lives in this room, I can still do it. It doesn't need to take up all that much space. So in a perfect world, I could figure out a way how to set something like that up and turn the wall, that big blank wall behind me, turn it into a living wall with my herbs and, lettuces and stuff like that. That would be ideal. But I don't know that that'll ever happen. In the meantime, I'm thinking of my first go will be out on the deck here. Gets a whole ton of sunshine. Now, Brian is asking a very good question. A reasonable question. He says, is this book, oops, stay still. There we go. Is this book going to cause me problems? The world may never know. Every time he listens to my reading stream while he's at work, Brian ends up having to deal with an emergency of some sort. To this day, my favorite, we were reading Behold a Pale Horse. So already very, tinfoil hatty and deep statey. Someone in his lab managed to set water on fire, and he had to go deal with that emergency. So I don't know what kind of problems it may or may not cause you, Brian, but buckle up. We're going to start. No fucks given. Great idea. I know, right? The only problem is the carpet that's laying across the railing there. That's a death stairway. It goes down an entire story in like just 2/3 of the space of this room. It's very, very steep. The stairs are not the same width and depth. It's really ridiculous. I call them the death stairs, but because they're death stairs, it's very hard for me to access all of that empty spot of the wall there, right? There. It's very hard to access that because the floor isn't just right at floor level. It's a whole story down. So I've got a funky ladder that bends in multiple shapes. I'm hoping I can work something out with that. But yeah, I would love to make that just a living wall. And I think the cats would appreciate it too. Anyways, we are here. Let's see. Yeah, it's been 10 minutes. Good enough. A false wall at the railings. Well, the only problem is that's my front door. So I couldn't. Wait a minute. I see what you mean. Okay, instead of on the actual wall, put it on the railing. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to think on that. I'd still end up with the big bare wall, but at least it wouldn't be visible. Okay, yeah, thank you. That's an awesome idea. All right. Yeah. railing wall. Wall plants. There. I really should just pull out the notebook. I keep using my medical marijuana likes to come in neat little boxes, but then it sits right there. And so that ends up being what catches all my notes. I've got, I've got 1, 2 over there covered in notes, empty of the medical marijuana. But I am using them. I'm actually scratching out as I do one. I'm scratching it off the box, and eventually the boxes will go into recycling. But that's me. And I am cute, so I get away with a lot of silliness. In the meantime, it is most definitely time to begin the reading of Prepare the Handbook for Individual Freedom. Again, this is the 3rd edition, and we're starting right at the dedication and acknowledgements. So right off the top, it says, "Thank you for reading. A special thank you to the guidance and encouragement of Mr. Andrew and Emily Bronca of the Law of Self-Defense and American Law courses. My fellow law commentators and fans, such as the late, great Jeff from Legal Vices, of which I am always and always will be a proud member of the Vices Squad, and his son, Vice Baby, Ozzy Overlord, and all the crew over on the Experts channel, Sean of Potentially Criminal, the Lawfordite Danny On, Joe of Good Logic, Chandler Riley, Steph the Alter Nerd, Mr. Nick Ricada of Ricada Law for agreeing to do my original foreword. I pray for your safe return. The lawyer you know, Peter Tragos, and the secret stud Andrew Esquire from Legal Mindset. Thank you to the mercurial Tom Sailors, Farmhand Tom, who gave me some insider guidance on the contents of this book, which are silently present throughout, and created my most excellent website. A special mention to the moderately intelligent Megan Fox, who occasionally investigates, who helped with the difficult chapters on faith and provided the wonderful reaction quote captured on the back cover. Thank you to Will Parker of Freddie Merck's Gunworks, who helped me with some of the firearm stuff, which can be found here. Bloop. Actually, let me do it this way. Oh, shit. Okay, see, now I'll drop these links in the description because my fingers aren't working. I'm kind of shaky this morning, so I'm double clicking when I should be single clicking and not clicking in the right spots. So I'll drop in the discounts or in the description. So again, thank you to Will Parker of Freddie Merck's Gunworks, who helped me with some of the firearm stuff. Thanks also to folks like Josh Pritchard at ISBN Services, who made my first book a Kindle book. He can do the same with your book. Jacob Turnbow Design Incorporated of jacobturnbow.com designed the nifty logos and the interior graphics and redesigned, finalized the cover. Jacob also designs marching band performances. How unusual. That is very unusual. Marching band performances. The logo is intended as a graphic sticky note so that when you're finished reading, you can look at the logo and be reminded of the individual freedom ideas contained therein. Let's not forget my flighty artist friend, Harry Messersmith, whose triangulated man concept always resides in my unconscious and may have inspired my geometric thinking. I'd also like to tip my ginger hat to the amazing Grok, who currently helps with many of my design concepts. The artist Marina Bakasova made the great renderings of Brucey in my children's book. And Anna from her upcoming work on... And Anna, okay, that was a misspell. And Anna for her upcoming work on Jackson in My Difficult Dog. Let's not forget all the great chatters and internet folks who made this book a reality. The kind and mentored Danielle in Florida, the president of my fan club, Nicola Maxwell, the cool Canadian corn pope who encouraged me to say no, Valhalla Waits, who has the cutest baby goats. He's got a whole raft of baby goats happening just now. Mighty Meats, Catherine in Ireland, an early and fabulous fan, Diamonds and Henna, Upon the Horizon, who is scary smart, Flux, who gave me an honorary lesbian badge, Tracy in Texas, who really, really wanted the hardback and inspired the successful hardback book auction, and superfan Stephen Cooper, who helped offset this book's costs during the hardback auction and gave the first printing to the special foil cover. For the first printing top shelf upgrades, we can thank definitely not Brandon, who was record-breakingly generous on Legal Vices on the February live stream, and Patrick Finnegan, who equaled the feat. Also, thank you to Megan and Danny from the Megan Kelly Show, Dr. Christopher Jenks, Dr. Rebecca Peck, my Rumble guest, Matt himself, and my other peeps who came on my Rumble channel. Gosh, he's just naming us all, isn't he? Cheers to all the great folks worldwide who have inspired me to write this book, including those who bought my first book. Without that success, this book would not exist. This includes a smattering of chatters who play with me in the mosh pit of the internet. Because I cannot name them all, let these folks be a representative group. Nicola, Kyle, the tax law guy, Ormond, not local, Sachs of Goldman, Freemason, Becker 908, Three Mud Dogs, Esprit, not the car, Bradley the lawyer in Australia, Shizzy Wisnett, Bowman the Cairo, Tony the guitar strap guy, the Nerdist, Sinbad 33, Ralph L 707, whose super chat made a difference, and the rest of you scoundrels. I know I missed a bunch, but the above can stand in for everyone who encouraged me online. Thank you to everyone who bought my previous books. This revision adds to prepare the handbook for individual freedom. If you enjoyed this one, try Ideas and Answers in Law, Solutions to Common Problems Confronting the Criminal Lawyer, Death Penalty Debates, Net Positive or Net Negative, The Summer Friend, Surfing, Music, and Growing Up, and Death Penalty Desires, Passion, Lust, and Murder. Also, Death Penalty Designs, Maximum Due Process. Also, look at my children's coloring book, Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, written for readers up to 3rd grade and based on the Serenity Prayer. I bought that for my nieces and my niece and nephews. the youngest ones, the ones who would actually be the right age. But yeah, it was a really nice book. Very pretty, very well done book. And the Serenity Prayer is something that my brother and I were raised on. I think that's the first thing I ever memorized and could say by rote. My father was already a recovered alcoholic a couple of years into recovery when he met Mom. So my brother and I never knew him as drunk, but we grew up in AA. AA was a weekly part of my dad's life, and it became a part of our lives as well. So that particular book, Brucey the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, was a special one for me. So he goes on. I hope it will become a part of a parent's bonding with the child. Reading my child at night was one of the greatest memories of raising my son. This is now a small hands edition that is full color softcover. My difficult dog for first-time readers will pop up soon. I also have a fantasy novel and a collection of short stories for elementary school readers in the works. I hope to give out as free to my supporters a book on Scooter the cat, tentatively titled Scooter Asks, Where is God? My fan Daisy Hinagiku may be illustrating. Your purchase of my books allows and encourages my future writing. Keep up with my goings-on at Rumble, YouTube, and through my webpage at stephengosney.com. My students at American Law courses have been brilliant. To name a few, Will Parker, Susan, Phil, Milford, Joey, Stephen, and the rest of this esteemed crew. You guys deserve a big hello. Thank you to my supportive group of friends and family, without whom I could not be the person I am. Friends are a part of me, including the late Derek L. Brooks, Ann Brooks Kenyon and family, Chris Watson and family, Mary and Tim Casey, Jian Yang, Dr. Roger and Liz Lewis and family, Danny and Robin Berenberg, Dr. K. Michael Reynolds, the late great Dr. Marty Deneen and Marion Deneen, Deacon Bruce Kaczynski and family, Father Bill, the Prince of Peace family, the Knights of Columbus, the late Noble Mac Brunton, Ryan Van Ree, Nail Hanush and family, Kathy Finn and Drew, Dr. Brian L. Cutler, Mr. John Zack, Mr. Ryan Bellinger and family, Mr. Michael H. Lambert and family, Sandy Burke Bishop, covert jury operators Mary Rose and Marty Peterson, the late great Judge Richard O. Watson, the late Mark Bernier, the Honorable Dmitry Krasikov and family, and many others. Thank you to the dedicated lawyers of Team 7. Especially notable are the great Mrs. Rosemary Peoples, now with the Jose Baez law firm, the stars Sarah and Evan Altes, evidence man Ryan Belanger, the wise and wonderful Stephanie Park, the legendary John Terhune, my Flagler buds Regina Nunnally, William Bill Bookhammer, and the long lost Rich, my great assistants Victoria, Renee, awesomeness herself, Michelle Lombardo, the late Anna Hunter, who gave everyone so much light, the best court reporter around, June Fisher Lang, my mentorees past, present, and future, including Philip Arroyo, Brittany O'Neill, Jason Bethea, Carter Reeves, Tatiana, and the rest of you amazing trial lawyers. Hiya, Fiery. How you doing? Further kudos go to inspiring public figures and thinkers, Dr. Jordan Peterson, Dr. Stephen Hayward, Dr. Linda Deno, Andrew Clavin of the Daily Wire. Oh, Andrew Clavin, sorry, of the Daily Wire, Dr. Randy E. Barnett, the great Dr. Thomas Sowell, Justice Clarence Thomas, Robert A. Johnson, John Locke, C.S. Lewis, Winston Churchill, Justice Robert H. Jackson, and many others for their brilliant ideas transmitted from afar. Thank you to Freedom of Speech, led by the excellent information websites, legalinsurrection.com, powerlineblog.com, and the hyperblogger instapundit.com. Again, all of these I will put into the description at the end of the show so you guys can find them. Inspiration must also be given to musicians far and wide. First among them are the fretless monster Tony Franklin, Tom King Cardenas of The Stranger, and Greg Billings Band, pardon me, who went out of his way for my brother, and so many more. He says, I'd love to mention all my favorite bands, but I have over 500 gigabytes of music on my tablet. Let's just say my current favorite band is Ginger and leave it at that. As many of you know, music is a big part of my life. We could throw Monty Python, Yes, and John Borman's classic movie Excalibur into the mix. You may hear more about them later in the book. While we are at it, how about a shout out to all the inspiring artists and craftsmen who make our world a more beautiful place? Specifically, I greatly admire C.F. Martin Company, Orville Gibson and the Gibson Company, Leo Fender and Fender Musical Instruments, Stuart Spector, Ned Steinberger, and Paul Reed Smith for their musical instruments. Smith and Wesson, Eugene Stoner, and Gaston Glock for their great firearm designs. Gustav Stickley, Leopold Stickley, and Harvey Ellis for their mission style and craftsman designs. And artists Fred and Harry Messerschmitt, Charles Levier, Charles Levier, Penny Constantino, Don Cincone, Harold Hitchcock, Jean-Baptiste Valadi, and Don Nedobeck for their beautiful artwork, in which has given my mom and I a mutual interest. Specifically and most importantly, my family includes my mom, Leila D. Gosney, who led by example with her hard work and guidance over many years, and Bob Fritz, the teacher of so many. My brother Cliff and his family, my wife, Michiko C. Gosney, is the love of my life and makes me whole. My son, Stephen C. Gosney, who gives me purpose, and the God above. Thank you, gentle reader. Ultimately, this book is written for you, the free individual. Peace be with you, Stephen N. Gosney, March 8th, 2025. See? Hot off the presses. All right. What is this book about? The book's concept sprung from my contemplations on whether I am a constitutional originalist. A pure originalist believes that the only way to interpret the Constitution is through their originalist perspective. La la. Thank you. After wrestling with this idea, I decided that originalism is a necessary starting point for constitutional analysis, but not a sufficient interpretive lens. During this intellectual struggle, I imagined the arguments about enumerated and unenumerated rights, but it dawned on me that this framework was insufficient to defend individual freedom. As I thought about the idea, I thought about how the rights-based framework was a path to tyranny and sought to imagine a new concept that would protect individual freedom. Writing down and discussing these ideas, even if incomplete, allowed further concept development. Once outside the brain, ideas can be built on. Eventually, my visualization coalesced into the Maslow pyramid traveling across the bell curve of life, which you will read about in the coming pages. Actually, he's probably got the pictures in here too, but just in case. Free speech is the freedom to think. I talk and discuss my ideas all the time with my friends, coworkers, and family. This helps sort through the thoughts and makes them snappier and more precise. When I told my son about my latest creative insight, which is part 1, he said, and I shall never forget this wonderful moment, "Dad, that's the best idea you have ever had." Boy, with that kind of praise, how can I not write this book? Love you, son. The pyramid over time idea reminded me of some prepper articles I had written several years ago. These first writings aimed to win prize money from James Wesley, Raleigh's survival blog writing content. While I did win a few Amazon gift cards, I could never hit the big money. I expect this was mostly because his blog at the time focused on practical techniques for rural survival, rather than a more philosophical approach that my articles reflected. During this time, I was honored by Mr. Rawls to help him edit his book, Expatriates. Look me up in the acknowledgments. I'm Steve G. from Florida. But so many prepper writings are on basic human needs, the bottom 2 layers of the Maslow pyramid. What about the top of the Maslow pyramid? The last part of this book explores some of these concepts in our present-day environment. But Gosney, you ask, you're not supposed to discuss politics or religion with friends. Have we not all heard that guidance? I repeated that jargon to my friend Derek L. Brooks during law school. In his kind wisdom, he said to me, "But I love you as a brother and friend. I care about you and your soul. These things are too important to ignore." He's right. If we do not talk truthfully and openly about the most important things in life with those we love, then that void gets filled by corporate media actors and propagandists who have their own agendas. Better that we take care of each other and seek the truth together. So I pray that you will excuse me if politics or religion intrudes on this text. It is only because I love you and want the best for you as a sibling and friend. All ideals are judgments. This is another Jordan Peterson insight that I want you to keep in mind whilst reading. Do not become offended by my offering up some ideas for your consideration. As renowned motivational speaker Steve Onicki, the Happy Jappy, used to say, "If the shoe fits, wear it. If it does not, then I am talking about someone else." Along these lines, consider that speaking generally does not necessarily exclude more specific alternatives. For example, if I say it is better for a child to be raised by a mom and dad, that does not exclude the specific case of a good single parent being superior to two bad ones. My own life is an example. My mom alone was a much better alternative to being around my dad. But statistically, the reverse is generally true. Hi, Lexi. Most people who read this book may be partly motivated by hearing me speak, so I assume you know some of what you're getting here. However, if you do not, I will lay my cards on the table. I am a straight Catholic Gen X man who believes in conserving the classical liberal ideals as laid out in the founding documents of our great country. What do you believe in? I do not mean to offend with my strong statements of belief, but such an assertion is required to set our goals high. Sure, if you stand for nothing, then you significantly reduce your chances of offending people. But what are the trade-offs? I have found that my best mates come from my commitment to strong beliefs. I'd rather have the deep friendship of the people I love if the cost is some hatred directed towards me because of those commitments. We all fail in the face of the ideal. Our challenge is to strive to be better. Hi, Girl Friday. My friend Jion from South Korea once told me that what makes America great is all the individual free people living their lives to the best of their ability. Hi, MSO. Hello, Bad Dazzer. How you doing, love? I think I did a good job as a single parent. Well, I hope I did. I don't know for sure, but I know enough of you to think you probably did a decent job. So, my friend Jion from South Korea once told me that what makes America great is all the individual free people living their lives to the best of their ability. Similarly, my friends from Russia noted that one of the great protections America has from tyranny is individual property ownership and the independent living that most Americans enjoy. For most of our everyday lives, we Americans do not need government. Oof, that's going to get us all in trouble. MSO, my country may not know that this book exists yet, and we're going to keep it that way. I know it exists because I know the author, Stephen Gosney. But yeah, if my government knew about this book, they would not be happy. I'm fairly certain. And Bad Dazzler saying his kids are all still alive, so that's a plus. Definitely. We'll take that as a win. But let's read that dangerous sentence again. For most of our everyday lives, we Americans do not need government. This is less true for deep urban dwellers who are more dependent on the government for their everyday living. This may explain why many of them are more vulnerable to the lure of government dependence. What makes a free people is a vast swath of the population living in freedom. Overall, free people are those who can live their lives as they see fit, within the bounds of a fair and just legal system, without undue interference from the government or other outside forces. I did great. My 3 boys haven't set a single thing on fire with just 2 years to go on the youngest. Nice. My mom can't say that of my brother and I. We definitely set a few things on fire, mostly ants with her hairspray. And yeah, but kids. Overall, free people are those who can live their lives as they see fit within the bounds of a fair and just legal system and without undue interference from the government or other outside forces. There are tons of books targeting the acquisition of stuff and protecting it. These books guide you in storing water, growing food, and defending your home. Many of them want you to buy their products, not that there's anything wrong with that. I have some suggestions for these areas, but where is the guidebook on living as a free individual? Well, I hope you're holding one. And thank you for reading my book, Onwards. Notes on the 3rd edition. This edition will be ported over to the Amazon publishing system. This will lower my printing costs and hopefully expand my market. Well, we shall see. Regardless, you are lovely for supporting my work, and I hope this content helps you become a better person. I ran the whole book through Grammarly, and boy, did it need edits. I think this version is much more readable. Thanks, Grammarly. In version 3.7.1, I added a few tidbits reflecting on my experiences in 2024. Also, I included the plans for an automatic gardening system for this edition. Previously, I published my hydroponic system plans under a separate cover titled Automatic Gardening, Why and How to Create a Simple Hydroponic System. The idea of that book was to show the reader how to create an automatic gardening system that can thrive on absolute neglect and still produce food for their family. See, that's my kind of gardening. Set it up, walk away, forget it, and then just reap the benefits. Yes, Dazzler. Canada and your UK government, they don't appreciate free speech. Like we were saying, it's the only reason this book hasn't been banned in my country is because they don't know it exists. And we're going to keep that on the down low. It's going to be like a Behold the Pale Horse. It's one of the most read books in modern history, but no one really knows about it on the mainstream. Lexi's saying, I can't keep a plant alive to save my life, not even a cactus. I kid you not. I killed my freaking aloe plant. I overwatered the freaking aloe plant. I'd had it for like, I got it on Mother's Day, and I think it was finally like November, October. I watered it and I gave it like a quarter cup, and it just brought it away to nothing. I'm a I can grow stuff. I'm an okay gardener. I'm a trial and error kind of gardener. I've got a little plot that I dug out on the property, the building property. I dug it out last year. I did brilliantly with zucchinis, which is good because I love zucchini. Other things, not so much, hit or miss, but I'm going to do way better this year because of what I learned last year. And you just got to keep doing it. Almost nothing will live in this apartment. I've tried so many different types of indoor plants in this apartment, and they've all died except my my African violets and my jade plant. Those two seem to be okay, but they're up on the fridge and I never touch them. I just don't touch them and they seem to be fine. No fucks given. Well, no fucks given. You and Dazzler are both in the UK, and I think Dazzler will probably similarly agree with you. No fucks is saying, I will say what I want, and if people don't like it, it's their problem, not mine. Yep. Dazzler's saying, just a drop or splash every 2 weeks. I had one aloe, now have four. Well, for Pete's sakes. Okay. I will try that. I will buy another one. Aloes, I love just the look of the plant and it's, useful for so many different things. But yeah, I will buy myself another one next Mom's Day. That's when I always go get my, my veggies and stuff. Mother's Day. But I will get myself another one and I will just not water it. I will ignore it like I do the wild or the African violet and the jade plant. I'll just totally ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist. Lexi says I bought a paddle cactus start from the old house to the new one and accidentally forgot about it, so it dried out. Oh. Yeah, I used to have one of those air gardens. It was on a fridge magnet. And so just every once in a while I had to mist it with a misting spray bottle, water bottle. And that was lovely. It was really cute. That's kind of what gave me the idea of trying to do a living wall thing on this big empty thing, so it's not just wasted space. Turning it into a living wall would be really good. So I'm hoping to learn from this, from his automatic gardening. That's the term that got me, automatic gardening. So we'll go back. Here's the description. The idea of that book was to show the reader how to create an automatic gardening system that can thrive on absolute neglect and still produce food for their family. That's my kind of gardening. Okay. Well-drained soil or peat with pumice. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to the girls next time I bio and see what they have to say too. I may just, splash out and get one big one and just, like I said, put it aside and forget about it. Well, the great thing, Lexi, about reading that one next, he's added it into this version that I'm reading from. It's not in the copy that I've got. I've got a first edition book, but he sent me the third edition, and it has that information in it. So we'll get there, we'll read it, and I can share it on the Discord in a community post. So no problem. We'll get there for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, Dazzler, I can grow potatoes like nobody's business. They grow in the freaking bag if I don't eat them quick enough. All right. I love the idea of a sustainable food source for my home, but I'm a terrible gardener. Further, I live in suburbia where space is at a premium. Planting directly in the sandy soil where I live does not exactly yield extraordinary food results. I've got clay, hard-baked clay. Going over to Epcot's Land Pavilion, I loved the tour of the grow systems they displayed and thought along those lines. I developed a simple, scalable, automated, transportable system with high capacity. I thought this content should be included in Prepare the Handbook for Individual Freedom, so I added it at the end of part 2. Additionally, at the end, I added my short book, Great Quotes on Law, Faith, and Life. These are important thoughts. Wisdom written down may aid us when we're in turmoil. There are many compendiums of books with quotations, but this one is more personal. I find these quotes to be especially meaningful. There is no order to the quotes. Instead, I tried to organize them into subject areas: law and tyranny, politics, faith, ethics, life and love, reason, economics, conflict, and truth. I then put the quotes in an order in which they meaningfully flow. As I was working on the citations, it was interesting to see how these quotes spread throughout history and how they hold together coherently. This is a testament to their truth, methinks. Many of my favorite thinkers are included: Thomas Sowell, Winston Churchill, Jordan Peterson, Edmund Burke, Ayn Rand, Justice Robert H. Jackson, and Richard Weaver, to name a few. This is not fast food. Savor each taste. I should really be drinking the coffee that's slowly going cold, right? Here we go. Part 1, the individual. The right to eat dinner and other conservative conundrums. What is the individual in a free society? In 2022, the Supreme Court of the United States issued its opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, holding that abortion was not a right found in the United States Constitution. The court reasoned that the Constitution of the United States does not confer a right to abortion because it was not enumerated, nor was it within the scope of unenumerated right. Soon after, protesters harassed dining justice Brett Kavanaugh at a Morton's Steakhouse in downtown Washington, D.C., causing him to flee from the public venue. The protesters mocked the conservative position by stating that the Constitution does not contain an enumerated right to eat dinner. The protesters are correct. No such right is enumerated in the Constitution. This raises the hypothesis that perhaps defining individual freedom by an increasing atomization of rights is a mistake. The problem with the rights-based approach to individual freedom. The Dobbs decision illustrates the divide in this country between enumerated and unenumerated rights. Enumerated rights are those spelled out in the Constitution's Bill of Rights and substantive. Enumerated rights are those spelled out in the Constitution's Bill of Rights and substantive amendments afterward. Even though they are written down, enumerated rights have been consistently eroded over time by the courts. For example, the First Amendment is under attack, books are banned, and freedom of speech is shouted down. Hate speech, I hate that word, that term, hate speech codes are broadened to include anyone with whom the powerful disagree. The Second Amendment is continually attacked. For example, does the enumerated right to bear arms entitle the citizen to carry an AR-15? What about a howitzer? The right to remain silent is ridiculously limited. On and on. Such is the push-pull between the two sides. Unenumerated rights are those not explicitly spelled out or listed, but rather implied. The controversial right to an abortion is the most famous example of an unenumerated right, with two sides passionately disagreeing. The unenumerated right to privacy, based on the now overturned Roe v. Wade decision, is another example of an unenumerated right. Today, there are great debates about whether an individual has an unenumerated right to refuse a government-mandated injection or the unenumerated right to decline healthcare insurance pools. Not hate speech, it's called the truth. If she takes it up the butt, she won't get a lump. Okay. Yeah, I think freedom of speech means we have the freedom to say whatever the hell we want. Um, but other people have the freedom to respond to what you say and to react to it. And you are then required to deal with the um, the consequences, you know? I can say, "Fuck you, shut up, I hate you." Um, it may even be right or true, but that's not gonna stop the person I'm saying it to necessarily from getting mad and saying something mean back or, slugging me one. There are consequences to our actions, and our words are also actions. So we need to be prepared for it. But yeah, I don't believe in hate speech. I don't think that's just another one of those vague, little umbrella tools they can use to sweep everything they don't like in underneath. So, and yes, I'm going to read that line again too. I love you, Dazzer. I will read that one again too, partially because it needs to be reread and restated. Also, because fuck you, YouTube. This isn't medical misinformation. This is absolutely truth. Today, there are great debates about whether an individual has an unenumerated right to refuse a government mandated injection or the unenumerated right to decline healthcare insurance pools. To distinguish between protected unenumerated rights and areas that the government can trample, Dobbs envisions that citizens are protected by those rights deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. The court itself summarized the issue as follows. The court's decisions have held that the Due Process Clause protects two categories of substantive rights: those rights guaranteed by the first 8 amendments to the Constitution, and those rights deemed fundamental that are not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. In deciding whether a right falls into either of these categories, the question is whether the right is deeply rooted in our history and tradition, and whether it is essential to this nation's scheme of ordered liberty. The term liberty alone provides little guidance. Thus, historical inquiries are essential whenever the court is asked to recognize a new component of the liberty interest protected by the Due Process Clause. In interpreting what is meant by liberty, the court must guard against the natural human tendency to confuse what the 14th Amendment protects with the court's own ardent views about the liberty that Americans should enjoy. The court has been reluctant to recognize rights that are not mentioned in the Constitution. Therefore, under Dobbs, the government views a citizen as a bundle of rights. This is the underlying lens through which the government views its citizens. The court in Dobbs then makes this claim. The Constitution makes no express reference to a right to obtain an abortion, and therefore those who claim that it protects such a right must show that the right is somehow implicit in the constitutional text. Dobbs suggests that an unenumerated rights comprise a select list of fundamental rights that are not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. In deciding whether a right falls into either of these categories, the court has long asked whether the right is deeply rooted in our history and tradition, and whether it is essential to our nation's scheme of ordered liberty. Thus, historical inquiries are essential whenever we are asked to recognize a new component of the liberty protected by the Due Process Clause, because the term liberty alone provides little guidance. It's like we've repeated that. I think we did. Okay. It's just written twice. Abraham Lincoln, in his address at Sanitary Fair, Baltimore, Maryland, on April 18th, 1864, said, "We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word, we do not all mean the same thing. With some, the word liberty may mean for each man to do as he pleases with himself and the product of his labor. while with others, the same word may mean for some men to do as they please with other men and the product of other men's labor. Here are two, not only different but incompatible things called by the same name, liberty. And it follows that each of the things is, by the respective parties, called by two different and incompatible names, liberty and tyranny. The Dobbs case illustrates the raging debate about what is in or out as an unenumerated right within our legal system. Pure originalism contains other flaws. The case United States versus Daniels, 2023 U.S. app Lexus 2807, or sorry. Oh, see, this numbers are what my dyslexia has issue with. Mom gave me lots of really great tips and tricks so that the when the letters in words start to dance around, I can figure out what they're supposed to say. Numbers dance, and I've got no idea or tricks to stop them from dancing. So, my apologies. The case United States versus Daniels, 2023 U.S. app Lexus 20870 USCA 5th 2023 illustrates the dilemma of ideological purity when applied in a Second Amendment context. Applying the strict constitutionalist analysis contained in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, I'm just not going to read these case numbers. Okay? If you want the case numbers, you let me know and I will let you know. I will share them with you. But they're just dancing all over in front of me. And for our purposes, we don't need to know the case numbers. So, applying the strict constructionist analysis contained in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin to firearm ownership, the concurrence writes, courts operating in good faith are struggling at every stage of the Bruin inquiry. Read the whole concurrence for insight into the limitations and challenges of using historical models in courts to determine constitutional meaning. Despite the existence of the 9th and 10th Amendments, pure originalists seek to limit the expansion of unenumerated rights. The liberal wing of the court views unenumerated rights as a window by which they can project an expansive view of individual freedom, as they define it, onto the Constitution. Take, for example, Loving v. Virginia from 1967, the case that ended all race-based legal restrictions on marriage in the United States. The Loving Court based its ruling on equal protection and due process. Generally, the progressives seek to shoehorn new rights into the due process clause. Casey described it as the freedom to make intimate and personal choices that are central to personal dignity and autonomy. Casey elaborated, at the heart of liberty is the right to define one's concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. Pretty broad stuff. This was the path that Franklin D. Roosevelt, whom I extensively quote in this book, enunciated in his 1944 State of the Union address. FDR's Second Bill of Rights imagined 1. The right to a useful and remunerative job in the industries or shops or farms or mines of the nation, and 2. The right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation. 3. The right of every farmer to raise and sell his products at a return which will give him and his family a decent living. 4. The right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad. 5. The right of every family to a decent home. 6. The right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health. 7, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment. And 8, the right to a good education. All of these are unenumerated. However, this list follows the simple idea that to expand the individual's liberty, we must externally define what makes an individual. By the process of expanding rights, the progressive would argue we are, in fact, expanding individual freedom. Conservatives on the court push back against the concept of progressive expansive rights. For example, in his concurrence, Justice Thomas states forthrightly that he does not believe that the Due Process Clause is the source of any substantive rights, but that the analysis is properly within the ambit of the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Thomas states, the question would remain whether other constitutional provisions guarantee the myriad rights that our substantive due process cases have generated. For example, we could consider whether any of the rights announced in this court's substantive due process cases are privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States protected by the 14th Amendment. Conservatives simply do not see the federal government's authorizing document as the definitive source of the individual definition. Instead, the Constitution is a document that regulates how our government works. Today, in law schools, courts, the media, and even our very consciousness, we are taught that the key to understanding individuals is protecting and validating their rights. However, an individual is much more than just a bundle of rights. While rights are essential and help protect individuals' freedoms and autonomy, they are only one aspect of what makes a person who they are. The government is a disembodied entity, a creation of the group. It may see us citizens through a lens of rights, but that is not how we should see ourselves. Individuals are complex and multifaceted beings with unique thoughts, feelings, experiences, and personal characteristics. We have our own hopes, dreams, and goals, and we are shaped by our relationships with others and the communities we are a part of. A wholly unique person should be treated with dignity, respect, and understanding. A new conception of the individual is needed. Now, the problem of rights. Man is not property. We are more than that. Our government likes to forget that. People are not property. In the United States, the idea of chattel slavery took hold, wherein people were treated as personal property to be bought and sold as if they were livestock. Admittedly, we come from the animal kingdom, but debasing ourselves as animals invites the mantle of slavery. We can make ourselves chattel by failing to develop our higher functions and failing to grasp towards a higher ring of consciousness and humanity. You would think that this issue was resolved during our Civil War, prior to the victory of the United States Army at Appomattox. Too many A's. Prior to the victory of the United States Army at Appomattox, American. Sorry, my words are going. Let me just. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. You would think that this issue was resolved during our Civil War. Prior to the victory of the United States Army at Appomattox, American slaveholders treated persons as possessions, as personal property. There's so much alliteration here. I think it's alliteration when there's all the same letters. Personal property must be distinguished from real property or land. The term bundle of rights is often used to describe a set of legal rights associated with ownership of real property. Most people understand the concept of land ownership in terms of the fee simple absolute, which is the highest form of land ownership. This means that the owner of a parcel of land has the right of possession, the right of control, the right of exclusion, the right of enjoyment, and the right of disposition. Lawyers often shorthand this idea as real property ownership is a bundle of rights. With this concept in mind, some of the sticks within that bundle can be separated. For example, a leasehold gives the lessee the right to exclude others over a set period of time. Mineral rights can be separated. Personal land ownership, aka ownership of real property, utilizes this bundle of rights concept. Individual citizens are not a bundle of rights. The bundle of rights concept as applied to the Bill of Rights is a confusion. Individual rights should not be intermingled with this real property law concept. Otherwise, we are again reducing individuals to property. Just as people are not personal property, people are also not real property. He's got a little, just by the by, personal property is just fancy legal name for stuff. Okay, here we go. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. I'll show you this as I read it because I can do that now. I don't have to look. Is that going to work? Yeah. No. All right. Well, you can kind of see, you can see the circles and you can see the squiggly lines. So the squiggly line on the left, it says group action, and lower down it says corporate action. And then the squiggly line on the right, the top word is government, middle is mob action, and the bottom one is everything else. And the two circles, the centermost one is the enumerated rights, and the darker gray one is unenumerated rights. I really thought these would show up better with the camera than that. The hand-drawn photos were showing up better from the last book. So, visualization. Imagine a circle. Inside that circle are all enumerated rights. Around that middle circle is another larger circle of unenumerated rights. That's the darker gray. This visualization shows the bundle of rights-based views of the individual. Are the boundaries of that outside circle the maximum of the individual human action? By this, does this mean that government, corporations, and groups can act with abandon if they do not touch upon the boundaries of those individual circles? Under this model, groups can encroach on everything outside the unenumerated zone. This illustration reveals a great danger in defining people as a bundle of rights. Let's see. Yeah, it's just not wanting to read the words in the drawing for some reason. Hi, Island. How you doing? So, again, if this is something you want me to, I can throw it in the description or with the links, or I can do a community post with all the uh, different pictures that are inside it. Um, Diagrams is the word. Boundaries can be extended if needs be. Yeah. Islands at work and lurking. It did read it? Okay, good, good. So under this model, groups can encroach on everything outside the unenumerated zone. This illustration reveals a great danger in defining people as a bundle of rights. When rights are so limited, tyranny encroaches. Academic liberals and conservatives argue around the fringe of what constitutes an unenumerated right and about what the enumerated ones mean. Liberals emphasize abortion rights and gender selection, while conservatives rail against governmental vaccine mandates and religious freedom. However, even if we expand unenumerated rights, we are still left with a vast space outside of that circle that can be encroached on by government, corporations, and other groups. Further, as case law develops and exceptions are created for the government to get around the rights, even those that are enumerated are eroded. And that's where we're at now. All these executive orders, not just Trump's, the executive orders from, you know, decades ago, from before I was born or you were born, all the little executive orders have so fully eroded the Constitution that at this point in history, they've managed to work around just about all of it. So further, as case law develops and exceptions are created for government to get around rights, even those that are enumerated are eroded. For example, the warrant requirement, which in the past required a certain amount of effort on the part of the state, can now be fulfilled by a computer click of the button. An electronic signature of a magistrate gives the state a near instantaneous warrant-based go-ahead. Officers who lie to obtain warrants are almost never held to account. Then there is the inevitable discovery doctrine. Then there is the good faith exception to the warrant requirement. The list of exceptions and workarounds seems endless. When we're done, not much is left of our constitutional rights. And this erosion is also occurring on a broad front. Rights have been traditionally viewed in the United States as a shield against government action. Private action is much less proscribed. Therefore, individual corporations may set policies that exclude participation from disfavored groups. But this leads to some difficult questions. For example, does an individual have the right to use a phone? Does an individual have the right to post political rants on YouTube? Does an individual have the right to a credit card? What about all credit cards? What about credit scoring agencies such as Experian? Does an individual have the right to use PayPal? Does an individual generally have the right to secure banking? Does a person have the right to be protected from non-government agencies creating social credit scores? Big business is not the friend of individual freedom. The liberal conception of substantive due process creates a near infinite source of unenumerated rights from which dreams of individual liberty can be grafted onto the Constitution. But how do we understand unenumerated rights? How can such a list ever be developed? In contrast to the liberals who look to expand rights by projecting their desires onto the Constitution, conservatives point to the 9th and 10th Amendments as protection for citizens from group encroachment. The problem is that in the face of specific challenges from group interests, the non-specific reservation of interests generally fails. Thus, in practice, group forces are shrinking individual freedom over time. Many European countries have applied progressive solutions to the problem broadly. The European conception is based on the individual's rights becoming ever more defined and judged by the government. This evolves into what many American commentators may see as positive rights. Like the FDR approach, the Europeans would say that an individual has a right to housing, medical care, etc. This results in an expansion of the welfare state. The danger here is that the state becomes increasingly powerful, and the only recourse of the citizen for government encroachment is an appeal to the state itself for room to be free. It can be fairly posited that the European conception of positive rights, compared with the United States' idea of negative rights, leads necessarily to more entitlements. Dependency on others, and especially the government, hinders individual freedom. But does dependency inevitably lead to limitations on individual human potential? I believe so. Thus, it is our individual task to become independent and free-thinking citizens. All right. The Maslow hierarchy of needs. Understand human needs to account for them in your life plan. No, I haven't seen that. Dazzer's asking, have you seen the reel of a man in the UK with $11,000 in the bank, wanted to take out $2,700 to buy his son a motorbike, and the bank wanted proof that he was buying a bike? I haven't heard of that one specifically, but that's happening more and more. Canadians are finding that out too, pulling out relatively small amounts, and the bank is asking why they need the money. Like it's of none of their concern. It's your money. You should be able to just take it out. You don't need to give reasons. But more and more often, you're needing to give a reason to take your own money out of the bank. So, kind of happening everywhere. So, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who developed his hierarchy of needs to understand individual human fulfillment. Maslow's hierarchy is a psychological theory that outlines the 5 basic needs that motivate human behavior. Oh, that's the wrong. Got too many bookmarks. There we go. All right. So that's the Maslow Tower. The very top is self-actualization, realizing personal potential, self-fulfillment, seeking personal growth, and peak experiences. I need to. There, okay. And then I can still scroll with the other arm. The second down says self-esteem. Self-esteem, achievement, mastery, independence, status, dominance, prestige, and responsibility. The next one after that is love and belonging, which is friendship, intimacy, affection, and love. Safety and security is the second from bottom. There's protection from elements, security, order, law, and stability. And the very bottom one, the darkest one, is physiological needs: air, food, drink, shelter, warmth, sex, and sleep. Those are most definitely necessary to life in general, and a happy life. And it'd be hard to ask where my money went. Well, yeah, right? Eileen is saying, I have a theory that a lot of dysfunction comes from people spending too much time in the top of Maslow's hierarchy, i.e. gender theory. They get bored and find a way to claim status at the bottom. Interesting. Yeah. That kind of is the thing where not we, us here, we tend to be of a similar open mind. But it seems society in general is spending, yeah, way too much time up at the top, and they're forgetting that in order to have a truly enjoyable experience as a human, you need to be worrying about the bottom. It's not, yeah. Self-actualization is kind of like, once you've once you've done all the hard work, self-actualization, that's when you start seeing the results of that hard work. But a lot of people are trying to get all that without putting in the hard work, and supplying for themselves. Anyways, I will go back and start reading. So Maslow's hierarchy is a psychological theory that outlines the 5 basic needs that motivate human behavior. These needs are arranged in a pyramidal shape, with the most basic needs at the bottom and the more complex needs at the top. Individuals must fulfill their basic needs before moving on to the next level of the hierarchy. According to Maslow, as individuals progress through the hierarchy and fulfill their needs at each level, they will become more self-actualized and able to live more fulfilling lives. Bottom or top, I like to look at both. Fair enough. Fair enough. And if we all simply do the, just the physiological needs, air, food, drink, shelter, warmth, sex, sleep, and if that's all we work at, it's not going to be a particularly fulfilling life, right? You need to have the bonding with others. You need to have the challenge of learning. It doesn't matter what it is you're learning, but the challenge of learning a new thing in and of itself helps you expand and grow as a person. A lot of people these days are pushed so hard, working so hard just to cover the basics. They don't have a time to think about any of the others, any of the other things that make life worth living. And that's part of the problem. That's part of why the governments around the world have been able to do as much as they've been able to do without people understanding. I mean, for Pete's sakes, shovels are illegal in my country. I kid you not. The little spades that you use in your potted plants, those have been illegal for years. My favorite shovel, it's a proper spade. It's got a little bent over lip at the top where the handle comes out, and then it's peaked and pointed at the bottom. Those they just made illegal a few months back. A shovel is illegal. These sort of things wouldn't be getting passed if everyone wasn't so hard working their butts off just to exist and survive. People don't have time to hear about these things, and even if they do hear about them, they don't have the time to rail against these things because they're just trying to survive. And I think that was part of the plan, and I think that plan is working really well for the powers that be. The only reason I know all the shit I know now is because I was unable to work any longer, and so I had time on my hands. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was bored. So I started looking at stuff, whatever piqued my curiosity. And, now my stepmom goes, "How do you even know about this stuff? How do you know all this stuff?" It's like, well, because unlike everyone else who's stuck in the rat race trying to survive, I've got nothing but time on my hands and I can look into stuff. Hello, Matt Hoffman. This was one of the philosophies that Charles Dietrich studied as he created his cult Synanon, founded in Santa Monica, California in 1958. He took a more inverse view and used deprivation of needs. Okay. That I'm fairly certain I've heard of that. I don't recognize your name. I'm sorry, Matt, if we've already met, but if not, hi, I'm Digger. I read stuff and I learn things. I do have memory issues. things that happened last week I won't be able to remember. Movies that I've seen a zillion times I can't necessarily remember, and I tend to blend facts of different happenings into each other. Um, but the Synanon sounds familiar, as does Charles Diederich. So I'm sure I've heard about that cult before. I'm going to have to refresh my memory on it later. But yeah, that's kind of what the world has done to its citizenry is the inverse. We're struggling so hard just to survive that we don't realize that we're missing out on some of the most important parts. But then there's the flip side of the people who are so busy trying to you know, self-actualize, looking for their personal growth and peak experiences, they forget they have to put in all the hard work from down below in order to achieve these actualizations, these learning moments. They just want the results without any of the effort. So you can't call a spade anymore? Nope. And I sure can't own one. Life is some kind of game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Yep, you're not wrong. And this is the first time we've met Matt Hoffman. Okay, nice to meet you. Totally social engineering. Yeah. I can have a fork still so far. But then wasn't it you guys in the UK recently made carrying a kitchen knife illegal? So all of the professional chefs in your country have to find ways of traveling with their chef's knives without their kitchen knife. So it's all ridiculousness. It really is. At some point, they're going to ban the spork or ban everything but the spork. But they're going to make you cut the tines out. Right? It's just silliness. And there's so many laws, like the shovel law, that have been passed that people don't know about, and no one will have to know about all of these ridiculous limiting laws until the time comes to enforce them, at which point us, the average citizen, is going to be, knocked over backwards with the ridiculousness of it all, but also not too surprised to see that we're all being rounded up and arrested for breaking laws we had no idea even existed. The fork would help with the breaking up of the clay. Yeah, you are right, Dasser. Especially since I can't have my spade anymore. So, where are we? Yeah, individuals must fulfill their basic needs before moving on to the next level of the hierarchy. According to Maslow, and as individuals progress through the hierarchy and fulfill their needs at each level, they will become more self-actualized and be able to live more fulfilling lives. Visualized. The hierarchy is often visualized as a pyramid. At the bottom of the Maslow pyramid are the physiological needs, followed by safety, love, belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. Notice that these levels build on one another. Thus, if one is concerned about safety, one will focus on that exclusively before attaining a higher level, such as respect. An individual will sacrifice respect for safety. It's hard to achieve job fulfillment if you're homeless, cold, and hungry. Traditional preppers focus very strongly on the bottom two tiers. This is a correct initial focus, as life without adequate food and shelter will not propagate over time. The bottom tiers of physical safety needs are also more in the everyday human experience, more quantifiable, and can generate income for selling products that fulfill the bottom tiers. For the purposes of this book, however, let us separate the bottom two tiers from the top three. While I have some thoughts on the bottom two tiers, I think the top three are neglected. But save that for later. For now, let us examine the pyramid. Physiological needs. These are the most basic needs. The bottom pyramid tier includes the need for food, water, shelter, and rest. Basic human physiological needs are those things that are necessary for human survival and well being. Before any talk can be had about long term self actualization, the life of the individual human must be preserved. For example, we need air to breathe. Absent air, we're dead in minutes. The atmosphere provides clean air all around us for free, so one does not need to prepare for breathing needs beyond perhaps air filters. If not, we are all in more trouble than this mere tomb can accommodate. Next is water. Humans must drink water to stay hydrated and maintain proper bodily functions. Humans can only live a few days without drinking water, and a lack of water can be debilitating in a matter of hours. Water also aids in basic cleanliness, sanitation, and washing. Because of the primacy of water, every individual should have a plan for storing and purifying water. Multiple sources of water and multiple ways to purify water should be at the top of any prepper's list. A pool or a hot tub is a good emergency water storage area. Consider rain barrels for water collection tied to your rain gutters. Do you live near a water like a stream, a river, pond, or a lake? Ensure that you have an easy way to access this source and bring it to your living area. A well is a good source of water. Consider having an old-fashioned hand pump for backup. Shh, they will try and find a way to charge for air, right? Charges for everything. MSO, Johnny may have to lay off Digger due to tariffs. I keep telling him he's got to win the lottery over there and then bring it over here, because when we win the lottery over there, we have to pay the taxes over there. But as soon as we cross the border, we can fill out paperwork, and then our government gives us back that money that we paid your government in taxes. So he needs to buy the winning ticket over there, but then I need to claim it over here and bring it over here. Or he can claim it and then give me the money and I can bring it over here. And we'll just multiply the money just from crossing the border. Water purification should also be attacked from multiple angles. Boiling water, which requires fuel, is a time-tested purification technique. Drops of chlorine can purify water. This can be commonly obtained using ordinary household bleach. Check the ingredients to make sure this is pure chlorine bleach, as there are some additives that you should not be using. Just so it's handy, here's the formula for water purification using bleach. Each gallon of water should be treated with 4 to 5 drops of liquid chlorine bleach, or 16 drops if the water is cloudy. This is just under a quarter of a teaspoon per gallon. 1 teaspoon of bleach disinfects 5 gallons of water. A few bottles of stored chlorine bleach can go a very long way. Once your water needs are secure, the following primary need of humans is food. Humans need to eat food to obtain nutrients and energy. This is probably one of the most challenging baseline individual physical needs in the long term. Starvation can lead your neighbors to become foraging hordes and can end civilizations. That's true. It's a challenging and complex matter to farm and provide food for a large population. Historians even suggest that civilization itself is a product of the movement of humans from hunter-gatherer societies into farming societies. Large populations require organized and efficient agribusiness. The high civilizations of ancient Egypt and Babylon leveraged productive farming into state power. The miraculous hanging gardens of Babylon, a lot of that was edible. It wasn't just pretty flowers and trees. Boy, I would have loved to have seen Babylon at its peak. The city of Babylon. Not the tower, just the city. Humans need a place to live. A home provides protection from the elements and from other environmental hazards. Temperature protection from cold and heat is essential, as is moisture protection from rain. Home is a place of comfort to rest and sleep. Make no mistake, sleep is vital for the body to rest and repair. A shelter is also a place to store personal property away from thieves. It's a place that can be defended. True, a lot of flowers are edible. The need for clothing rounds out the bottom tier of basic physiological needs. Now, in all honesty, my wife would place this much higher in the pyramid. For her, a certain number of shoes or of a certain quality are required for self-esteem and self-actualization. But leaving that aside, humans must wear clothing to keep warm and protect their skin from the elements. Soldiers will tell you that successful infantry operations depend on good boots and protective clothing. Matt is saying, apparently, the very things that are vital for life and the success of life, one would think you would, as a country or society, want to protect. Sadly, U.S. protections have been weakened by this admin. Not just this admin. The presidential, oh shoot, I was talking about them earlier. The things like all that Trump's been signing, it starts with an E. But those things have been signed by multiple presidents for multiple decades. They were already eroding the Constitution and the Bill of Rights back in the 40s and 50s. They were already passing laws that were, rounding out the edges and softening and just making little holes to get through, so that by the time we're here at 2025, so many little workarounds have happened that it's been eroded nearly to extinction. Yes, definitely, this admin is not doing. I mean, they're doing some great things and some not great things, but we can't blame it all on this admin, especially not this admin, because he literally just got in. It's all the administrations, Clinton, Obama, Biden, Trump, going back before we, like, even JFK was writing certain laws that were softening the rough edges and making it easier for government to kind of control. It's been happening for a very, very long time. We can't blame it all on Trump. It would be lovely and easy to just go, oh, it's his fault, but it's not. It's been happening for longer than he's been alive. Yeah, it's been weakened for years, bit by bit by bit. The EPA. Yes, that's another one of those things that could really be tearing right back to the baseboards and start from scratch. There's a lot of these departments, and I'm Canadian, so while we may be talking American stuff, I the same can be said for Canada. If we could tear down our government and just start from bare bones again, and start building up, it would be lovely. There's so much fat on this government machine that nothing is getting through to us, to we the people. No fucks given. The UK government will be charging us for the air we breathe soon. Haha. Well, think about it like this. I live in BC. The hydroelectric capital of the world. Like, we make so much electricity with the water. The hydroelectricity here is insane. And yet I just found out we are not producing enough, or we're producing enough, but we're not giving enough of what we produce to ourselves, so that BC is still buying 30% of its energy from the US. My province, which makes more than enough energy to power the whole western half of Canada, is buying electricity from the US. Make that make sense. So we're paying more money for stuff that we shouldn't, right? It doesn't make sense. And all these little things on all aspects have been slowly eroding the rights. America's the only one that's got you guys have got the Constitution, you've got the Bill of Rights. You guys are the last thing standing in between actual freedom and the globalist agenda. Lexi, you read me through a full house cleaning, shower, hair, and makeup. Thank you, Digger. Well, thanks for hanging out, Lexi. Lexi, I appreciate it. I kind of, though, respectfully disagree. He's radically rolled back regulations. He has. Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm not saying he's done no wrong. Trump, yeah. He's most definitely not been doing all good. And he's rip-roaring through things so fast that a lot of stuff's going to get lost in the cracks. So yeah, I am definitely I am more Trump than I was Kamala, but that doesn't mean I am a Trumper by any means. They're all dirty. And if you want to watch my shows with my buddy Mighty Meats on Wednesdays, we're talking about the Mystery Babylon and the secret societies that have slowly come up throughout human history. The Bill of Rights that is being stifled. Yeah, especially the free speech. Yeah, try being Canadian. It's damn near impossible to say anything here without getting yourself chucked in jail. Really. Yeah, we. But yeah, I think we agree. I think we agreed. Trump has definitely done a lot of damage. I'm just saying we can't blame it all on him. It's been happening forever. It was happening before he was even born. They've been working on this a good long time. The factions that have been working on this global takeover, this new world order, this whatever you want to call it, has been called a zillion different names over the many years. But they have been working. They've been playing the long game. They're I hear they'll be putting tariffs on free speech, right? And it's all for the mighty dollar. Yeah, it's happening. We've got to be aware of it, and we've got to stand up and make the change in our own everyday life. It's easier said than done. And it takes a very long time. It's not something that we'll be able to repair in our lifetimes. I mean, I'm 45. There's no way we're going to fix this situation before I kick the bucket, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. But I'm hoping that enough people will understand what's wrong with the situation and start working towards repairing the situation so that maybe, my youngest nieces and nephews, their kids will grow up with the kind of childhood that I grew up with. I was a child of the 80s, a teen of the 90s, and it was a damned good time to come up. Yeah, 45. Yeah, but it was a nice time to come up, and I'm hoping that enough of us can make enough of a difference. So by the time my youngest kids, not my kids, but my nieces and nephews, by the time the youngest ones are having kids of their own, those kids will be able to have a childhood like my brother and I were able to have, hopefully. Dads are saying we have people in jail for tweets. You're over the pond, are as free as a bird in comparison. No, I don't think we've got anyone specifically in jail for tweets. We had a dad that was finally recently, in the last year, released. He was jailed for multiple years because he refused to acknowledge the gender identity that his ex-wife forced upon their child. I can't remember if they had a boy that the mother was turning into a girl, or if it was girl being turned into a boy. But the mother and father divorced. The father refused to acknowledge the pronoun change, and that ended him up in jail for a few years. It's yeah, it's not free here. There's no way I could go sit out in public and pray. I'd be in trouble right away. Not me, hun, the USA. Okay, fair enough. Yes. Yeah. In comparison, the Americans are free as birds, but it's getting worse. It's coming. We have people being deported for their views. Are you for the views? I thought they're just doing mass scoop ups of anyone that's potentially an immigrant and chucking them back, and then like scoop them all up and sort them out later, sort of deal. But I didn't think it was specifically for views. I thought it was specifically for being an immigrant, legal or illegal. Right now, they're kind of just scooping everyone up and chucking them out. My mother, my lovely mother, is very afraid because I'm planning a trip to go to the States to visit some of my friends online. And she is very, very concerned. She called me the other day and she says she respectfully requests that I wait at least 4 years before I consider going traveling to America because because of the immigration and the ICE and scooping everyone up and checking everyone out. She's afraid I'm going to get scooped up and put in a detention camp. Um, and I love her to bits. And it's really bad over there, but it's not that bad. When I'm coming in with the round trip ticket, only going to be there for 2 weeks, they're not going to trouble me, right? Um, it's the problem with the Trump things right now is he's got to do it's such um sweeping changes that the good is getting thrown out with the bad. But what do you do? Do you throw the good out with the bad and try and bring good back eventually? Or do you just let the bad keep getting worse? You know, at this point, I would love to see Doge come over and audit the Canadian government when he's done auditing the American government. I would really like to see that. I would like for the Canadian population to get an actual accounting of where the money is being spent, because it's not being spent here. There are more people homeless in Canada over the last 5 years that prior to that 5 years were fully capable of surviving on what they were earning. Hello, Dom, my friend. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? But yeah, it's we need something like that. We need an audit of the government. Would I prefer that it was someone other than Elon? Well, sure. But someone needs to do it. Someone needs to do it. And oh, hello, Mr. Beat. How you doing? I have nothing to worry about. uh yeah, no, it's an interesting time we live in. That was actually my favorite. It's both a blessing and a curse. I was told it was an ancient Chinese blessing and curse. May you live in interesting times. And we most certainly live in interesting times. And there's going to be different ways of trying to fix the path we're on. And some are going to work and some are not so much. But one thing I can say for Trump is at least he's trying something. He's not just letting the rot keep going. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going to get thrown out that doesn't need to be. Now we're going on 2 hours here. I think maybe since we stopped reading anyways, I'll just call it here. And then we can pick up with the safety needs next Thursday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. We start reading every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can add your time after that, however many hours you need to. But we will continue reading from that point next Thursday. And now I will end this all. I have no idea how to raid someone. But I myself will be going to, oops, if I can, okay, good. Is that, no, oh no, cancel. Oh goodness, I hit a wrong button. It damn near kicked me out of my own stream. I'll see. This is why I hunt and peck. I try to do too many of this and I hit wrong buttons. Matt saying kind of an unsafe feeling time. I hope we can fix this path. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's the shakeup is going to be good for us no matter what. Hopefully we can we can pull ourselves up out of this. But at the very least, the shakeup from Trump is going to cause new stuff, new stuff to happen. So, anyways, I am heading over here right now to Johnny's. There we go. So that's where I will be in just a few minutes when I finish with this stream. You guys can feel free to go over there and join us there or move on about your day. It was nice hanging out with you guys and chatting. Nice to meet you, Matt. I'll see you guys next Thursday for reading. Also, Monday and Thursday afternoons, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I talk with friends and talk with chat. So I'll be talking with you guys tonight on whatever topic you decide you want to talk about. So hope to see you there. And until next time, bye.
Topics change from day to day. Science, art, or history's play. No path too twisted, no trail too thin. She dives right in where to begin.
Cheers, Dom. I'll do that for the next one.
Nothing's too obscure. She'll dig and dig a spirit so pure. From ancient lore to future dreams, every question finds its gleam.